Hello, this is KYC News. We have provided you with relevant and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we wish him good health and heartfelt desire. Here are the main points. Syria's needs are greater than ever, according to a top rights investigation. In the US, an 8-year-old boy kills a baby girl while playing with his father's rifle. Syria's needs are greater than ever, according to a top rights investigation. The Commission of Inquiry on Syria estimates that 14.6 million Syrians are in need of humanitarian aid, 12 million are suffering from severe food insecurity, and 90% of the population now lives below the poverty line. Humanitarians only recently issued a warning that the funding promised for relief efforts were insufficient to assist, according to Commission of Inquiry Chair Paulo Pinheiro. Mistaken priorities. Given this disturbing reality, it is outrageous that discussions at the Security Council center on whether to shut down the only remaining border crossing that is authorized for humanitarian aid rather than how to increase access to life-saving aid throughout the nation and through all suitable routes. Mr. Pinheiro was alluding to the upcoming closing of the Bab al-Hawa humanitarian border crossing from Turkey into northern Syria, which needs a resolution from the UN Security Council to remain open after July 10. For multinational cross-border operations were still operating in Syria as of early 2020, but only Bab al-Hawa remains operational due to a lack of agreement among Security Council members regarding the continuation of the others. Aid reaches almost 2.4 million of them each month through the lone cross-border operation still permitted by the Security Council, providing a crucial lifeline to the people of northwest Syria. Recurring failure. Mr. Pinheiro stated, parties to the conflict have continuously failed in their commitments to provide and support timely and unhindered passage of humanitarian aid for those in need throughout Syria. These, as well as any further barriers to humanitarian help, must be eliminated, including any brought on by unilateral sanctions, including those that are inadvertent. Concerns about whether it is safe for the more than 13.4 million Syrians who have fled their homes to return were also raised by the leading rights expert. According to Mr. Pinheiro, pressure to return to the country is growing for the millions of refugees who have already left. Nearly 92.8% of refugees surveyed by UNHCR recently said they do not want to return in the upcoming year. The investigation, which was launched in August 2011 by the Human Rights Council to look into alleged transgressions of international law, has again brought attention to the tens of thousands of relatives of foreign fighters who are still being held in appalling conditions in camps in northeastern Syria. Al-Hol nightmare keeps going. In northeast Syria's Al-Hol and Al-Raj camps, 40,000 children are still being imprisoned in horrible conditions alongside 20,000 adults, mostly women, Mr. Pinheiro added. At least 24 murders have been reported in Al-Hol this year, and crime is still rampant there. Even humanitarian workers have come under attack. An ICRC doctor and a Red Crescent nurse were both stabbed to death. Syria's envoy, Hussam Eden Allah, responded to the head of the Commission of Inquiry and refuted the charges and errors that he said were in the Commission's reports. Along with prefabricated allegations, contentious judgments, and fake reports, he also rejected any effort to support the development of new international organizations on Syria. In the US, an 8-year-old boy kills a baby girl while playing with his father's rifle. In Florida over the weekend, a young boy, 8, who was playing with his father's rifle fatally shot a newborn and injured her younger sister. According to Escambia County Sheriff Chip Simmons, the father, 45-year-old Roderick Randall, was detained and charged with concealing evidence, unlawful possession of a firearm, and culpable negligence. The tragedy, which is all too often in a nation where guns abound, happened in a motel where Randall met his fiancée. Randall had a criminal record that prohibited him from carrying a pistol. His girlfriend had brought her 2-year-old twins and her 1-year-old daughter, while he had brought his kid. During a press conference, the sheriff claimed that at one point Randall left his weapon in the closet and went outside. While the girl's mother was asleep, his son discovered where it was concealed, pulled it out, and began playing with it. He takes the revolver out of the holster, plays with it, then shoots the 1-year-old toddler with it, killing him instantly. The second toddler, age 2, is hit by the bullet and is hurt but is expected to make a full recovery. Prior to the cops showing up, the father exited the room with the pistol and an unknown material, possibly drugs. The infant girl's death is the most recent in a horrifying string of related mishaps. According to a recent report by Everytown for Gun Safety, hundreds of youngsters in the United States acquire access to unsecured, loaded firearms in closets and nightstand drawers, in backpacks and handbags, or just left out. Children discover these unlocked firearms with terrible regularity, accidentally shooting themselves or others. The group, which supports tighter gun control laws, calculates that these unintentional shootings by children result in an average of 350 fatalities annually. More generally, according to the website Gun Violence Archive, weapons are responsible for about 40,000 deaths annually in the United States, including suicides. Russia claims that Finland and Sweden joining NATO will be destabilizing. A NATO expansion to include Finland and Sweden, according to Russia, is unstable for international relations but has no bearing on Moscow's foreign policy. One day after Turkey dropped its opposition to the two Nordic nations joining the military alliance, Sergei Ryabkov, Russia's deputy foreign minister, made the remarks to reporters. Moscow's response, according to him, was negative. Ryabkov stated, "Our position is known, it does not alter," as reported by RIA Novosti. "We view the North Atlantic Alliance's growth as a totally disruptive factor in world events. Neither to those who expand and who are among the joiners, nor to other nations that regard the alliance as a danger, does this offer security." In Moscow's eyes, NATO's aggressive containment of Russia will continue as a result of its expansion, according to Ryabkov. "We comprehend NATO's talking points. A new strategic idea will be implemented, wherein Russia would be referred to as an alliance threat. Real life has nothing to do with this. The threat to us comes from the coalition." He declared that in the event of an expansion, Russia will implement compensatory measures. Russia has long resisted NATO's eastward enlargement to include Sweden, Finland, and the neighboring country of Ukraine. Ukraine, an ex-Soviet republic, has long desired membership in the Union, but Moscow views Ukraine as being a part of Russia. On February 24, Russia invaded Ukraine, beginning a conflict that has lasted months and resulted in the former gaining control over the country's eastern regions, notably the Donbass region and the cities of Mariupol and Severodonetsk. Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, declared on Tuesday that the organization has agreed to admit Finland and Sweden after Turkey abandoned its objections. The two nations signed the accord at the NATO summit in Madrid, Spain. According to Stoltenberg, the action sends a very strong message to Russian President Vladimir Putin that NATO's door is open. President Putin is receiving more NATO on his borders even if he wanted less of it. As a result, he receives the exact opposite of what he requested. Turkey has historically opposed Finland and Sweden joining NATO due to claims that both countries host members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Ankara has classified as a terrorist organization. The PKK, a group, has fought for Turkish independence. Japan's June heat wave reaches its hottest day, putting a strain on the country's electricity supply. As concerns mounted over a lack of electricity to keep air conditioners running and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida advocated for an increase in nuclear power use, Japan prepared for its warmest day of a record-breaking June heat wave on Wednesday. On the fifth day of a heatwave that has seen the Japanese capital sweat under its worst June heat since records began in 1875, temperatures of around 40 C were anticipated in areas surrounding Tokyo as several manufacturers announced plans to scale back production in order to preserve electricity. Tokyo's temperatures won't return to 30 degrees Celsius until July 5, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. In the final 3 days of this week, the demand and supply for energy are anticipated to be at their highest, a ministry official told reporters. According to the official, the early Wednesday afternoon power consumption in Tokyo and the surrounding area may be comparable to recent years' peak summer levels. According to National Grid Monitor OCCTO, the anticipated electricity supply already includes all available additional measures as of Wednesday. An OCCTO mid-morning estimate showed the reserve ratio of power generation capacity for the Tokyo area could fall as low as 2.6% between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. local time on Wednesday, below the minimum threshold of 3% deemed necessary to ensure stable supply, demonstrating how severely resources are being squeezed. At a news conference following a Group of 7 (G7) summit, Prime Minister Kishida pledged to use nuclear power to the fullest extent possible as long as safety is guaranteed. He also stated he would do everything in his ability to ensure that Japan has a sufficient supply of electricity. Since the tsunami on March 11, 2011, which caused the Fukushima nuclear tragedy, the majority of Japan's nuclear facilities have been shut down. While requests for further use of alternative energy sources, including restarting reactors, are growing, electricity corporations are hurrying to restart shut-down thermal power facilities. While regulators once more urged people to conserve electricity as much as possible without cutting back on air conditioning where it might risk the health of the weak, some firms likewise promised to scale back on their typical operations. For instance, the car parts manufacturer Yorozo Corporation announced that from July through September, it would shut down all of its manufacturing facilities for at least 2 days each month.